Guy, God know they make sense.
Baba, calm down.
God know they make sense now. You know they make sense.
I understand what you they try talk.
Omo.
But it just be say sometimes they be like say God know they make sense. No be say God know they make sense.
Sometimes they be like say God know they send men. They be like say God know they send men.
But a man experience will last.
Abi?
No be saying now God do.
Yeah, we'll go talk him now.
Oh yeah, now.
Hello guys, welcome back to B's Corner Podcast with your host Biama Joseph, and today I have with me my very good friend. I call him Man of God, Rampi. He will tell you the full name. I can't pronounce it.
It's Rampial Tima Parmang.
Rampia Tima Bar Omo. Make I no bite my tongue. It is the Church Boy Talk, and today the topic is the struggles of the average church boy.
Yeah.
You are a church boy out there. Even if you are a church girl, I'm sure there were those times in your life journeying with God when it seemed like God was not making sense. You know, you were seeking him, you wanted to know him, or you were trusting him for something, and the responses weren't just coming, and you almost resigned to faith to say, you see, this God thing, forget about him. That's the conversation today. So pull closer to your screen and lock in as we dive into this conversation. Yeah. Rampi.
Yes, sir.
Omo, I no go lie you. You get time with this God bar, just forget about them. You know they make sense. Have you been there?
Yeah. Any true believer that has not been there,
Any
I'm pretty
true
sure
believer?
that, yeah.
Okay,
then
great. I like the qualification.
Yeah, it's probably because you have not really genuinely sought God, as it were. But there's the tendency for every believer to must have experienced
Yeah.
that. So
I truly agree with you.
Yeah.
You know, so let's talk about experiences now. Can you paint for us a picture of times when this God really didn't make sense to you?
yeah, of course, there were many instances of such, right? But some of them were quite significant. I can remember the death of my father. That one was a significant
Oh yeah.
moment.
That must have been a very tough time. Yeah, we want to hear the story. What happened? How did you take it? How did that shake your faith and your belief in God? Let's hear the story actually.
Okay, first of all, because my father was a breadwinner,
Yeah.
so his death really rocked the foundation of what provision is. I felt my level of insecurity sort of got exposed to.
I see.
So yeah, it felt like I didn't have a father anymore. So it was a lot of pressure.
Wow, you said something very significant. It felt like you didn't have a father anymore.
Exactly.
Right? So it felt like you were alone.
I felt alone. I felt
Suddenly
lonely.
that covering you had was taken away.
Yes,
Yeah, go
every
on,
form of vulnerability that, as a guy you can have. Plus, I'm the firstborn and I'm a son. So it was very difficult for me to navigate that particular season that it happened.
I can imagine that, especially because I have a similar experience,
Interesting.
I don't think there was ever a time in my life where my faith and belief in God was shaken, was
Exactly.
rocked, like
Yeah.
when I lost my dad.
Exactly.
Like you, I grew up knowing my father to be the sole provider of the family.
Exactly.
Typical African setting, like the father goes to work, comes back, he gets paid salary, he buys food, he pays your school fees and all of that. That was how I grew up. I knew my father to be the provider. As a matter of fact, I never even in that season of my life ever saw God as a provider necessarily.
Exactly.
I only knew my father as a provider.
That was a struggle.
So it was easy to really struggle when the provider was taken away.
Sorry. And
Yeah,
do you
go ahead.
realize that you will never know how much of a pillar your father was to you and to the family until he dies?
Till he dies. My God.
And then it looks like every support system that signified he's been alive is taken away in a moment. See, it's a very difficult place to be.
I truly agree with you, especially because I was torn apart, my guy. I sat down one day, I think a few weeks after his passing, and suddenly the world became
Stood still,
It
right?
stood still.
Exactly.
You understand? Suddenly I realized, nothing they happen. No, like I said, I knew my father to be the sole provider. So everything I needed, it was daddy. School fees. It was, in fact, there were times when I didn't need to go and say daddy school fees. He took care of it.
Exactly.
Right? He knew when to pay. Food was not a subject of conversation. He always provided. So it's easy for, it's easy for someone in that place to question the faithfulness of God. Remember, we're talking about God not making sense.
Yes.
If you don't mind, can you dive deeper into that conversation of, that moment when you lost your dad and the experience was really rocking? What was your disposition in that season of your life?
Yeah, first of all, because it was a new experience for me, I really did not know exactly what to do. That's one. Number two, I didn't know who to run to, right? And sometimes new experiences like this, they stretch a part of you that you probably did not even know you had. I don't know if I spoke about vulnerabilities too.
Yes, you mentioned vulnerability.
And then fears too.
Yeah, sure.
And now you are being confronted with a reality that you never knew had existed. You see, there has never been a time before that period that I had meditated upon the death of my father. My father, I perceived him as a very strong man. I perceived him as a very courageous person.
Yeah.
So for me to think that someone that strong and courageous will die never crossed my mind.
Sense.
So when it happened, it rocked my reality.
I agree with you.
And so I didn't really know what to do from there. But of course, I know as we proceed, we're going to talk about some of how God was able to step in. But I'm telling you that those were seasons in my life where the only person I could think of blaming was, first of all, I don't know why, but I really blamed God.
Of course.
I was so embittered.
Yes.
I felt like, why would he take God in the very particular time that I was going to enjoy my father, you know, like that. So that's just basically how it was for me. My reality, my perception of God, everything changed. Funny enough, it was the same year that I was ordained a pastor that my father passed on, 3 months apart.
Wow.
So you could imagine.
My God. So from the responsibility at family level, you were saddled with responsibility at church level.
Exactly.
Now imagine a young man who was struggling with...
I was 20.
What? You were 20?
Yeah.
My God. So my father died the same year I turned 20. Can you see how similar our stories are?
Okay.
Listen, let me tell you something very, very significant in this conversation. Up until my father died, I don't think I ever remembered a time when, talking about God not making sense, right? I never remembered a time when all of my, as it pertains to my needs, I never remembered a time when my attention was focused on God. When I saw God as source, when I saw God as provider, it was my dad I saw, right? Somewhere in my mind, this is the person God gave me to provide for me, to take care of me. Now, suddenly you take him away. How do you expect me to cope? So when you mentioned you blamed God, I truly blamed God. It took a lot of time. It took a very long time. I wasn't interested in anything God anymore. You understand? Now, I know that there may be someone out there listening to us today who can relate with this experience, right? But talk to me again about some other experience that you had that really rocked the foundation of your belief in God. Something similar like what the death of your dad.
Yeah, of course. Well, this might be funny, but it wasn't funny then. My first heartbreak. Yeah.
Yes.
I thought
let
God
there be woman. Let there be woman.
Man, I thought God. I don't know why I still blamed God.
Really?
Yeah.
Man, you blamed God for your heartbreak.
Yeah, I did. I blamed God for my heartbreak.
This is very interesting. Please talk to us about it.
Why would you want to put me in this spot?
I want to know, how does a girl break a guy's heart and he blames God for it? I'm trying to understand. I don't think that I have experienced heartbreaks, right? Not one, not two, but I don't remember ever blaming God for my heartbreak. Now it's an entirely new thing hearing that someone can blame God for their heartbreak. So I want to hear that story.
Okay, first of all, I don't like really talking about this.
This must have hit you really hard. I like
it. Yeah, it actually did.
Okay.
Yeah, I've healed and I've moved on.
Of course.
Hopefully, but it
hopefully.
Was... Yeah.
Did you say hopefully?
Yeah.
Okay. Have you healed or haven't you healed?
Okay, I've healed.
Stop playing with me. Tell us the story.
Like I said, I really don't want to dwell too much on that story. But the point is, I knew that I gave everything in that relationship.
Oh,
and I had, you know, I had gotten to a place where it felt like this was my resting place as far as finding a spouse was. So everything that I needed to do, to commit, to give, to love and everything, I did. But it just didn't end up exactly as I had anticipated it to be. So for some reason, you know, sometimes when you are in that depth of pain and darkness, it's easier for you to blame.
Just find someone to put it on.
So it was more. See, I was in a very dark place, so much so that I just felt like there was no woman that is deserving of my love and my attention. I think it's because of the seed of righteousness in me that I was able to get healed and all of that. But I had already made up my mind that after that particular period of time,
you weren't going to do a relationship.
No, I will.
But
I will
church girl.
No.
Oh, you would deceive.
Yeah, I would deceive the girls. I was going to sleep with them.
Wow.
And then I was going to break their heart. Yeah. And I meant it.
And you know, amazingly, these are struggles of Christian guys, right? Sometimes guys in church give everything to a sister. Now, since we're talking about a heartbreak, we're talking about the context of a guy and a girl. Let's talk about it like really well.
Yeah.
Sometimes you give your all to a lady. You are committed. And church boys, we're not bad boys. We really want to do whatever we set out to do. We want to do it truly, really well. So you give your all, you commit and all of that. Now I can see why I think I can see why you blamed God. You perhaps took the time to pray about this relationship.
Well, of course.
You committed it to God.
Well,
and somehow in your heart you felt the peace. You felt you knew, yeah, this was God. God is in this. And suddenly the lady turned around and, all of that. I have been a victim of heartbreak within the context of the church too. I'm telling you. Like I said, I didn't necessarily see it in the light of, I didn't necessarily blame God, but I was pained. I was broken. I was shattered. Now, many Christian guys listening to us today conversing have arrived at that point where they say, I will never be true to a girl within the context of relationship. I will deceive. I will sleep with her. I
was there.
So you got to that place.
Yeah, I did.
How did you come out of it?
Yeah, I just realized that if I don't really heal, then I've already given that person the power over my life. I didn't want to, I don't know where the thought came from, but I realized that I can't allow or give another person the power to change me into something that I'm not. So I had a choice. Yes, I would either yield to that darkness or allow the light of God to really heal me in practical terms. That's just as simple.
I'm sure that must have been
I've
God.
come across a lot of guys who were once very good, devoted.
Yes.
When it comes to relationship, and it will even surprise you to know that some of these guys who are parading themselves as players were once very good. It took only one
very good
one relationship to make them snap. And many of them refuse to heal from that. And now it has changed them into the monsters that become. Unfortunately, that means that the hurt is become like a seed of that person in your past. That is still influencing you.
Yes.
But I just didn't want to.
And it's very important when you said you decided. Now, looking about it or thinking about it right now, I knew it must have been God who put that thought in your heart or in your mind when you said you wouldn't give someone the power to change you.
No.
Now, many of our young men are moving around, quote and unquote, for lack of a better way to express it, being controlled by the effect of people from their past.
Yes.
You understand?
Yes.
But somehow they are still seeing God as that person who didn't allow that thing to work.
So you are both blaming God and you're still allowing someone else to influence and to control your life in a very negative. You are losing both ways.
Yeah,
it doesn't make any sense. Like I said, I had to make up my mind and look, I'm bigger than this. Now, the next relationship I entered a better person. It still didn't end, but I was not hurt and broken anymore.
Yeah, that
was
way.
One of the proof that I had actually healed. I learned a hard lesson. Never love a woman to the point that you can't let her go.
Whoa. Can you say that again? You say that again?
Never love a woman to the point that you can't
let her go.
Yes. The true test of a healthy relationship as a man is your ability to simultaneously be able to hold on to a relationship
and
yet when you feel that it is you have to be you have to be willing to just, if it is going to be toxic, if it's going to take a part of you or change a part of you that is no longer authentic, that's trying to transform into something else, then please, just let it go.
You just touched something very important, right? Now, even I, sitting right here, I am realizing that it was God who saved me from that mindset and perspective. Now, I told you just a while ago that I have been a victim of heartbreaks too. But this is one thing that was significant about those heartbreaks. It was difficult to let go.
Yeah,
it was difficult to let go.
Exactly.
Now the lady had moved on, but I was dying inside, questioning. Sometimes I even questioned myself. Is it that I'm not good enough?
Exactly.
Is it that I don't have what it takes?
Self-doubt,
self-doubt and all of that. I'm realizing that I dealt with those things until see how God truly makes sense. Even when we're not looking, he steps in and he heals us. Now, let's talk to, because I believe strongly that someone out there needs this. Let's talk about how you arrived at that place where you could trust God again. You could believe him again. You could dare to walk with him again despite everything that has happened to you, just so that someone listening to us can find the strength to say, look, God is not to blame for this, right? Maybe I didn't get something right, or maybe I didn't even necessarily do anything wrong, but people will always be people, and life happens, like we say, right? God is the only constant in this thing, and if only I can dare return to him. Can you talk to us about how you can dare to return to that place where your relationship with God is, fixed and you can believe again?
I like the fact that you use the word "you can dare." To dare means it requires two things. Hidden in courage is humility.
My God, hidden in courage is humility.
The root, people don't realize this. The root of courage is actually humility. You're not truly courageous until you are really humble.
Wow.
Because the strength of courage is in the exchange of a strength that is not yours, but is greater than you, that you are allowed to take over or to take control of you. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. That's so profound.
That's where true courage. That's why they say a true courageous person, courage is not the absence of fear, but daring to do what you need to do
fear.
In spite of that fear.
Yeah.
But that means that something that is in you that is greater than that fear is what took over. That one requires humility. That's one of the first things we must be.
Interesting.
Yeah, and you can't truly heal if you are not humble enough.
That's true.
The humility there is a recognition that you need help. It's that simple. If you don't realize that you actually need help, you will never truly be healed.
My God.
All right.
Wow.
So yeah, it's those. That's what, Steve Jobs said something. One of those his remarkable speech. He said, "You don't connect the dots looking forward. You connect the dots looking backward." That means it is easier for you to look backward and see things in retrospect. That which didn't make sense when you were in it, all
now
of a sudden begins to make sense. Do you know that some heartbreaks are actually messy? Even though,
I agree.
Yes,
I agree with you.
Yes. Now, the pain of the heartbreak most times is a reflection of your soul tie to the person.
Yes.
Yes. And it meant that you needed that level of pain for that level of separation to happen.
Yes.
Because if God in his wisdom were to just instruct you and say, leave, you will not leave.
You will not leave.
You will never leave.
Rampi, I need to interject here because you touched on something very, very strong. Listen, I found myself telling a friend, right? Sometime in my life, life's journey, I found myself telling a friend, looking from where I'm standing right now, I knew God separated me from that lady. I knew. I didn't, when it was happening, I was struggling. I was in pain. I was saying, no, God, not this again. Why does this have to happen? But look, fast forward a few months down the line. Suddenly, one morning, I woke up and I woke up talking to myself, sitting on my bed and saying, Lord,
thank you.
Thank you for your mercy. Because right now I can see what you are doing. Even though the process was painful. I couldn't see.
So you see, it didn't make sense then.
It didn't make sense.
It makes all the sense now.
Wow.
But if you don't weaponize your mind with this comprehension, because life is very dynamic, right?
Yeah.
Many things will still happen ahead of us.
Yes.
We need to rely on the strength and the wisdom of those past experiences.
Yes.
Because don't tell me that even because I've experienced that before, that doesn't mean that I've not experienced.
You've not experienced certain things.
Even recently, where it felt like God was not making any sense.
Wow.
But the strength came because it's like you recognize, you have an epiphany. I've been here before. And God has been consistent in this matter.
So I can trust that He will be today.
Exactly.
So experiences may not necessarily ever go away, but the knowledge has to be established so that when we find ourselves in similar situations, we can always look back and say, look, the God who brought me out of that circumstance is faithful and is able to bring me out of this one.
So your pain becomes a part of your evolution and, and transformation.
Wow.
It's the reason why you are now more mature. It's the reason why you are wiser. The reason why they say an old man sitting down can see what is because he has been where the young man has been. That's just what it means. That's exactly. It means he has actually been there before. So when you walk in a certain way, when you leap or limp in a certain way, he has limped in that way before. So he knows what the trigger of the pain is that caused those gesticulations of the body. So you too can look from afar and you can see a teenager doing certain things. And you know the end already.
Yeah, you know the end.
Exactly.
My God, so God is so merciful. So now I get it. When I said God doesn't make sense, and you said, look, it's just that sometimes our experiences tamper with how we see Him. So if you're out there listening to us and you've arrived at the point where you've told yourself, this God, no, they make sense, I can assure you, look, God is the only constant in our lives. And if you have been through very terrible situations, look, you can look back. You are not where you used to be, even though you're not where you want to be.
Exactly.
How did you end up arriving at the place where you're not where you used to be?
Exactly.
If you understand my English.
Yeah.
God is faithful and He is good. And it has been the Bees Corner podcast talking about the struggles of young Christian men. If you have enjoyed this, join us in our next episode and we will catch you. I remain Biama Joseph, aka B, and my friend Rampi.
Rampi.
We'll see you again. Cheers.